Disclaimer. The information on this show and provided from or through this show is general in nature and is not specific to you or anyone else. You should not make any decision, financial investment, life, or otherwise, based on any of the information presented on this show without undertaking independent due diligence and consultation with a professional or advisor. You understand that you are using any and all information available on or through this show at your own risk. Try not to be a f***ing idiot.
The record button here. So that's recording. The only thing we use from the podcast is the audio. So keep in mind visual stuff. We will have to try our best to describe it auditorially. Otherwise, the video editor, so he's animating it, he can go to websites and he can throw in some screenshots of anything if you reference a website or a business. Right. So he can do that as well. Yeah. So let's kick it off. You ready?
Sure.
Okay. So welcome, Kwa, to the Omni-Normal podcast, and bit of background description of what it's all about. So Omni being all things, normal being a normal day in your life. Yeah. What I'm interested in and what I'd like to explore with you is starting from how we first met all the way through to what you do today. Because it's fascinating what you do. And not many people get to experience a life like yours, and you're still a young guy. So I want to start the very beginning. Pressure, no pressure. No pressure. No, I want to keep it casual, all right? Just keep it really chill. Tell me about how this all started and what your vision, what your dream is. I know you've described it to me before, but it's a very interesting story.
So how this all started is a objective question, I think, because I guess there are two legs in my career path. There are two very distinct periods in my career path, I think. One was when I was doing marketing and events for startups. And then the other period, which it's become my career now, is become a AI engineer and researcher with a focus on cancer diagnostics and treatments. So do you want to know how it all started from the beginning, or how it all started for my current?
I think your current one, because we did meet when you were in the startup industry, in the startup space. Correct?
Yeah.
Was that at the at UQ, University of Queensland, when we were studying there, and you were running, was it called the Idea Network at the time?
Yeah.
So you did that for a little while. What is it that got you from being in the startup industry to then moving, and cliche term, pivoting, right? Pivot into the healthcare industry?
So a lot of things just happened to line up, not at exactly the same time, but within a very short amount of time. So I was doing. I think we were catching up every now and then when I was working as marketing and events coordinator for River City Labs. That was the career plan, just keep doing marketing and events, just keep being kind of a community organizer for the startup community. That was the plan. Between back in this all the way back in 2015 and 2016, within a very short amount of time, a lot of things happened. One is my grandmother died because of lung cancer.
Terrible.
That was probably the biggest event. To be precise, she didn't die because of the lung cancer. We beat the cancer, but she died because of the after effect of the chemotherapy and radiation therapy. Basically, she has no immunity. She had no immunity left in her body after all the treatment. So she could have died because of a common cold. We still don't know.
Yeah,
So it happened
wow.
all the way back in 2015. And
is that a common occurrence? If people go through chemotherapy, is that a common occurrence that some people, is there a large percentage of people who don't actually survive just purely because of how destructive that therapy is?
yes, so that depends a lot on the nature of the cancer and how healthy you are and how old you are. So yeah, apparently, if you have aggressive cancer, then you need a stronger um, uh, radiation and chemo plan,
Yeah.
which will destroy your body more, meaning your chance of you feel the after effect more. And naturally, the older you are, the weaker your immune system will be, the weaker your body can recover after it.
Yep.
My grandmother had it when she was 70 something. That was probably one of the worst age to get it.
Yeah. Right.
And we never saw it coming. She was the healthiest person you could ever find. Eat healthy, live healthy, exercise every day, and then all of a sudden, lung cancer.
Wow.
And there's a whole story behind how our family went through it as well. We were told it was benign at the beginning, then slowly progressed into malignant. So
were you very close to her? Is that?
she's the third. So besides my mom and dad, I'm closest to her.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So
that would have
Granny
been
was
very tough.
It's pretty close, yes. So I saw that and I got really pissed. I just wanted to do something, I think. So that's one. And then around the same time, I was doing a Master of Computer Science degree at QUT.
So you went through you did marketing first at UQ, and then after that, you decided you wanted to do something more substantial. I'm assuming.
No, not really. The computer science degree was mostly a path to permanent residency. That was the main reason why I did it.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
So I was working for University Labs while studying computer science degree. The plan was, is because University Labs, we're talking about having University Labs sponsoring me to do my work full time, because we were in a very tricky situation, University Labs and I, because we needed me full time, but as an international student, I was only allowed to work part time.
Okay. Can you give me some tips, and for anyone watching that is an international student that wants to become a resident here in Australia, do you have any advice for people like that?
The pathway to permanent residency. Get a immigration agent, really.
Yeah. So you got to get a good agent, and that's just going to increase your likelihood of success.
Get a good agent, yes. Do your research, and the most important thing is if an international student comes here with the intention to work and live in Australia after their education, then having the foresight to pick the subjects that are more meaningful to the country is very important.
Oh, I see. Okay. So you actually look at where the direction of the country is going in terms of political agenda, and then go back a few steps from there and think about what career paths they would be looking at in government to help support the local talent or local industry.
Yep. So if you go on to Home Affairs website, you find in the permanent residency section, you find a list on skilled occupation list. And that's listing on the skilled occupations that are meaningful to Australia. And that's where we need more, I guess, more talents and more manpower in. So
yep. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, that was a bit of a side quest.
But that's a good question. So from there, right? Grandmother passed away. Was doing computer science at the time, and I started it off for as a pathway to permanent residency. But as soon as I started, I realized I got really interested in it. Always been coding since I was a teenager. So, and as I got interested in it, there was this new emerging field in computer science called big data. We didn't even call it AI at the time. Keep in mind, Brisbane is way slower than other parts of the world. So the term AI wasn't very popular back in 2015. So there's this big data coming up, and got really interested in it. And naturally, as I got interested in it, you find people you want to talk to. You kind of look around and see who does the things that you care about. So at the time, as I was working in RCL, there was this company that we hosted called Maxwell Plus, or at the time they were called Maxwell MRI, and they leverage artificial intelligence for prostate cancer screening and diagnostics. They're still around today.
I've met Elliot a couple of times. I think he went to UQ.
He did. And Matt Brown. So it was started up by Elliot Smith and Matt Brown. So as luck would have it, I became very good friends with Elliot and Matt, because RCL was hosting them, and I was running marketing and events there. Enjoy talking to the guys. So this back in 2015, 2016 through to 2017, as I was working for RCL and as I was doing the computer science degree, found out about Maxwell Plus, it became pretty clear to me what the path forward was going to be. It was doing what Maxwell Plus was doing, and is still doing. Became pretty clear to me that what I do is using AI for early detection and screening of prostate cancer. And I've never seen I had never seen anything like that before. And it became pretty clear to me that the technology, this AI technology that Maxwell was using, could be applied across the whole spectrum of cancer diagnostics and treatments. You can use the same technology to make sure that people can receive personal treatments that are personalized to them. We can use the same technology to predict people's chance of survival, prognosis, that is, and also predict how people would interact with certain drugs using their genetic signals. So there's a lot of things we can do with AI, and it became through Maxwell Plus. Well, I wanted to work for Maxwell Plus at the time, and I did end up working for Maxwell Plus. But through them, there was this. It feels like an epiphany, where there was this whole new world that just opened up to me before that I didn't know existed. And it was around that time that I decided this is my new career path now. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. So took my study a bit more seriously. I always take my study seriously, but I decided to really focus on the big data and machine learning side of my degree at the time. And as luck would have it, shortly after I graduated, about 7 or 8 months after I graduated, Maxwell Plus started hiring a lot of people and ended up working for them.
So Maxwell, and then Max Kelsen, because I'm not sure where the crossover there happens. I'd be curious to know.
There's none. They just happen to have the word Max in their name. That's about it.
But I mean, with your transition, so you had Maxwell Plus, and then you spent some time at Max Kelsen as well, right? Which is also another AI company. Maybe how would you describe the difference between the two of those?
Well, one is Maxwell Plus is a product company. Max Kelsen is a consultancy. And so So I got on board with Max Kelsen to join a specific project that leverage whole genome sequencing data to predict immunotherapy treatment outcomes. That just seems like a very exciting project to me at the time. It seems like there was I had some clue about genomics data at the time, and
how did you go with matching up what you were studying and what was required in terms of talent at the company? Because you mentioned earlier that Brisbane has always tended to, well, not even Brisbane, but Australia in general, tends to lag a little bit behind globally.
Sorry, what's the question?
So did you find that university was still giving you enough relevant education that you could work within the position or the company at the time of when they were looking for like,
well, I can't say no, mate. I'm back in uni now.
Never mind. Continue on. It must be doing something for you if you're still there. That's for sure.
Yeah, it gave my degree gave me the theoretical foundation to go on, the theoretical computer science foundation to go on and understand the advanced AI concepts, right?
Yeah.
But a lot, I think it's common for any AI engineers and researcher, which is we pioneering. We venturing into the new frontiers and trying to create new applications that don't exist before. So a lot of our job is venturing into the dark and picking stuff up along the way. So 90% of the stuff I know now I picked up along the way.
You're also crossing a pretty big divide between software and biology, right? To understand both machine learning, but also human DNA and RNA. Do you want to? I'd love to learn more about how the two kind of interact or how they can potentially cross. How does machine learning impact RNA, DNA, and how does it work? How does that happen?
It's funny you mentioned that because the wanting to learn that connection led me to go back to PhD and to uni and do a PhD. That's why I ended up doing a PhD. But and thank God you asked me 1 year into my PhD now that I have some knowledge to answer that. So funny thing when
you don't have to go
too
technical. You don't have to go too technical if you don't want to. Yeah.
No, that's fine. That's fine. So the combinations of biology and machine learning and deep learning in particular, there are many areas that you can apply AI in pathology. So I'm just mostly speaking for cancer research here, which is my field, which I know best.
Yep.
So in cancer diagnostics, the two most common data types are probably medical images and genomics data.
Yep.
Medical images in the context of cancer is pretty big. For example, if you go do a histopathology test and get a slice and get a histopathology image of a cancer tumor, the resolution that you get there is it can get up to 100,000 pixel by 100,000 pixel.
Wow.
Microscopic images. There are other modalities of medical images as well. There are magnetic resonance, there are CT, there are PETs. They're also very big. But I work mostly with histopathology images, and they microscopic cellular representations of a tumor, right? So and then we do clinicians, they do a lot of analysis in it. They can look into the pathology images, they can to quantify the amount of tumor cells, or to do a thing they call to quantify a thing they call tumor infiltrating leukocyte.
Tumor infiltrating lymphocytes have been described in a number of solid tumors, including breast cancer, and are emerging as an important biomarker in predicting the efficacy and outcome of treatment.
And spatially mapping them requires a pathologist to look at we call them whole slide images, which is, let's just call them microscopic images under the microscope, and map out the spatial organizations of these infiltrating leukocytes. That's a very boring and lengthy process.
Yeah, and that's what traditionally done by a pathologist. Is that right?
Yes, and what we can do is what the potential of AI is. It can then come in and automate this process, and not just this process, many other processes. What it means is it's not there to take anyone's jobs away. It's to, well, I see it as a companion diagnostic tool where it can automate some of the repetitive tasks to free up clinician times to either focus on the very rare cases that require attentions, or to see more patients. That's where I see AI stand in clinical diagnostics. So that's just medical images. From a genomics perspective, if you take a cell from your body, a tissue from your body, and you sequence it, you end up with somewhere in the realm of 2.8 million or billion base pairs of nucleotides.
Wow.
Can't remember million or billions, but the amount of genomics you can get from the amount of data you can get from genomic sequencing is massive. And it's an emerging field as well, because the technology is becoming increasingly cheaper, becomes increasingly commercial.
Yes.
So historically, we haven't done too much of genomic sequencing in cancer care. We're doing more and more now.
Yes.
So this data is flowing in, and it's just at the perfect time that AI is also becoming popular.
Yeah.
And this is what
capable, right? Capable, rather than, I mean, it's ideally it's past its hype curve, and talking startup language, it's actually moving into a place where it's actually usable.
That's right. And
how are you finding? So you've got the sequencing and you've got imaging. How are you finding the Australian government in terms of legislation, rules, and regulation for both of those? If you're building a solution in either of those spaces, is there anything holding you back around the legislation?
I haven't looked too much into that. We have a lot of collaborations at my institute where I do my PhD currently. I'm not sure about legislation per se. I haven't looked into it, but the common theme among the scientific community is collaboration. You don't work alone.
Yeah, of course.
So I have collaborations with a lot of people as PhD students.
Yes.
And the common understanding is you never do anything alone. You have to reach out to people.
Yeah.
Not just within Australia, everywhere. So
That would be
Actually,
really,
Tom, we should totally look into that.
yeah, that would be really interesting, and as a opportunity to collaborate with people globally. I kind of thought of an idea a long time ago, which you're obviously working on, around that idea of being able to have an AI that reads slides and medically analyzes and comes up with some sort of verdict as to a percentage likelihood that there's a cancer that's been seen in that image or
Yeah.
cancerous cell. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know, and this is again question to someone in the legislation within the government. How far are we away from having the AI actually give us the diagnosis versus it suggesting a percentage likelihood and then obviously sending that through to a pathologist who does a double check? And then once they double check it, and what happens, I get another question, what happens if the AI gets it wrong or for whatever reason, which it would have to be faulty data at that point?
Mhm.
I guess the AI isn't the one to be considered faulty. It's actually the faulty input of data, right? So
Yeah.
you won't have a situation where the AI is getting it incorrect and then people are dropping off.
That is.
Because they haven't been
Yeah.
caught. They haven't been. They haven't been diagnosed properly.
Yeah. So those two questions kind of have the same underlying questions, I feel like, which is how far are we to clinical applications of
Yes.
AI, right?
Yeah.
Because it feels like there's this point in time, there is this future there where AI is applied everywhere.
Yes.
And we have precision medicine. So I feel like there's the underlying question to those two is how far away from where we are now to that point.
Absolutely. What are your thoughts?
So legislatively speaking, no clue, not my view. But technically speaking, the technology is there.
Well, that I think is number one because again, in the tech space, from my experience, there is so much hype around every different type of technology out there, but its actual use and capability is limited. But if you've got something that is working in the tech space and government can see an opportunity to commercialize it, tax it, whatever, of course they're going to open up the legislation. They're going to support it and make sure that it comes through very quickly, very securely, and they'll support it 100%.
Well, giving companies like Maxwell Plus and Maxcalson more money, right?
And ultimately you, right? Yeah.
Well, I mentioned them because a very important element of clinical translation for AI is commercializing it, right? We need more people like Maxwell Plus or Maxcalson. There's another company that's under QMR called Genomica, trying to put whole genome sequencing technology in clinics.
Okay.
So we need more people like those guys.
How do you find, just quickly, how are you finding it in the global marketplace? There's obviously other people who are trying to crack this as well across the world. And what's the likelihood of someone, out competing our own local talent? And then I guess it's whoever wins ultimately. Whoever's the fastest wins the global market.
So the interesting thing is even though AI is maturing now, I'm not seeing maturity in and I'm not sure about all the areas of healthcare, right? But I'm not seeing maturity in the area of AI in cancer or specifically AI in oncology itself. There are companies everywhere trying to do similar things. I'm not seeing the coalescing of multiple companies coalescing together to form one single entity to do and become kind of like a market dominating entity. I'm not seeing that.
Okay.
Which kind of means that we still at this period is kind of like the
gold rush,
American West.
Or the Wild West.
Russian American West, where there's still so much to explore, but to go back to the original question of clinical implementation of AI, what I feel like what we need more is more. From what I see, there's a lack of like you have the research guys, right, like me, and you have the clinicians. There needs to be people acting as a bridge in the middle to take the research and communicate the importance of this research and convincing clinicians that
to adopt.
Yes, it will to adopt, but underneath the surface is convincing them that this will make their job a lot better, a lot easier, a lot faster.
Yeah.
But it goes both ways as well. There needs to be people communicating to researchers like me of what is clinically meaningful here. There's one pitfall that a lot of scientists, including me, run into is many times we get very fascinated with theoretical questions. I can sit here all night thinking about what would happen if I tweak my AI algorithm a little bit. I actually think about it every day.
Yeah, right. Yeah. What could it do? I mean, it could take over the world if you tweak it enough.
Probably not, but for it to take over the world, I need people to snap me out of my AI bubble and tell me that, okay, these are the things that are meaningful to clinicians. Focus on that.
Yeah.
And I'm very lucky at my lab because we work directly with pathologists. We work directly with medical oncologists. We work directly with, commercial entities like Max Kelsen or Genomica. So we have that constant stream of knowledge of what's clinically meaningful here. But I don't think we're having enough of it.
And not enough, right?
Yeah.
Do you think the medical industry, outside of your collaboration that's happening in Australia, do you find that they're maybe not as open to change, or is it just that? How are you finding that, or they're just too busy? Because that's going to be another issue: is that they're so busy they don't have the time to be able to think about how to innovate.
I actually don't know. That's a question I'm trying to answer myself too. I actually one of my future career plans is go overseas and go work in London and Canada, Montreal specifically, to see what the
their
AI
ecosystem's like.
Yeah, I've heard that in Montreal, for example, the amount of funding that you see going to AI and also going to AI, medical AI in particular, is insane.
Is that the hub globally? From what you know, does that seem to be the place that's leading the way, almost like a Silicon Valley for medical AI?
It's the Silicon Valley for AI. It's just the concentration of talent there is huge. You see people like Joshua Bengio down the road from you.
I don't know who that is, but I'll check him out. What's his name?
Joshua Bengio, one of the I guess the godfathers of AI.
Okay.
Godfather. Well, one of the big pillars in the AI community.
Yeah.
So that's I guess I'm in the quest to figuring out that question for myself. Sorry, go ahead.
I think it's a question towards you when you've got your marketing hat on, wouldn't you say? Because it's about connecting some dots. It's about understanding you can see the potential in the technology. How can you get more people in the medical industry that don't have let's say an AI background traditionally, or even a data science background traditionally? How can you get more of them to start thinking day to day, how can I bring more AI or automation or to scale up my ability to provide services in the healthcare space?
Exactly.
Like, how is that not a everyday question at this point? In 2021, surely if you're a medical professional, that should be something that you think about.
Yeah. Well, medical professionals actually very busy. So if you talk to a nurse, for example, they constantly on the move.
Yeah.
You talk to medical oncologists, for example, there's always more patients than medical oncologists. We're actually in a shortage of medical oncologists.
Okay.
So it would be nice if we have more cancer specialists.
Yeah.
Should totally go do medical degree myself.
I think you can make it. We need to clone you, I think, is the solution here, because there's not enough yous in the world for what needs to be done.
Oh, I'm just a small cog in a big machine.
Yeah.
But that's the nature of science, right? We're not looking for big wins. We're not looking for something that would change the nature of science. We're looking for incremental changes. We look to build on the work that's just been built over generations and generations. And there's something that I just learned now that I'm doing a PhD, which is if each one of us can push the field just a little bit forward, just a tiny bit, then collectively the collective sum of our work will move the field a lot.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean by I'm just a small cog in a big machine.
And where do you want to be in, let's say, 5 to 10 years? Have you got a specific outline, or is this a explore as you go? It's like looking into the void. You run your own company, yes?
Oh, totally. That's within the career plan.
Good.
I'll run my own lab potentially. But
maybe in Montreal. Hopefully the restrictions ease soon enough so that you can make a trip over there.
Hopefully, yes. But I'll be back to Brisbane. Brisbane's home. Getting engaged soon. Getting married soon. So
no way, really?
Yeah, I'm getting engaged very soon.
Okay, congratulations. Does she know yet, or?
Oh, she knows it's happening.
Okay.
She knows exactly when.
Oh.
And
do you want to announce it on the podcast now? We could call. Do you want to call her or invite? Is she down the road? Just call her up and get her in.
Well, she knows it's happening.
Good. Yeah.
But her family is here. My parents will migrate here at some point, so Brisbane will be home. The plan is work in London for a few years, Montreal for a few years, and then go back here mostly for, by that time, we'll probably start thinking about having children then.
Yeah.
And both parents will be quite old at the time. So it's just, then probably go back to Brisbane, set up shops here.
Yeah. That'd be good. Definitely let me know before you go, because we're going to miss you.
Oh, are you going anywhere, or are you?
We'll see how long COVID lasts.
So as soon as borders open, you just shoot.
I'll be gone. Yeah, we'll see. We'll definitely see.
Where to?
I'll give you the rundown on Monday, I think, when we catch up. Yeah. It'll be good. I'll let's polish it off here. Is there anything else that you want to maybe share, or for anyone that's listening out there, is there anything that you need or that you'd need help with that you'd like to share with people?
No, that's fine. That's fine.
You got everything you need.
Yeah, I'm just happy.
That's good. I think most people are just not happy. So that's a really good sign.
And very content where I am.
Yeah. And you're doing well. You're kicking goals. And it's been a pleasure knowing you for the number of years that I have. And I'm looking forward to seeing how you go as you progress. Very excited for you, Kwa.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thanks for being on the show.
You got to tell me how you end up doing podcasts, mate.
How I ended up doing it?
Yeah.
Okay. So I was thinking about how I was running these meetups that started off at UQ when I was studying at UQ, doing business, I started getting involved in the UQ Robotics Club.
Mhm.
And I think we might have crossed paths around that time, maybe sooner, maybe earlier. But it was at the UQ Robotics Club that I started a project with the guys there around building prosthetic arms for amputees. And this was using 3D printing, and there was so many rules and regulations that we made some prototypes, but it didn't go any further than that.
Yeah.
So after that, I looked at, and this is where I met Drew and David. Obviously, I knew them through Idea Network. And I remember catching up with them and deciding between either drones, drone technology, 3D printing, or virtual reality. I felt like I had to pick one of those three to focus on for the next 10 years or maybe the rest of my life. And I decided to go with VR. I had some reasons for that. And then I started the virtual reality meetup.
Yeah.
And it was through River City Labs that I had my first VR virtual reality experience with Kieran Lord, who was working at River City Labs at the time.
Yeah.
And so from there, I started a monthly meetup because I wanted to meet other people, especially engineers or software devs, to basically get more involved in VR because I didn't know anyone. I knew two other people that even had a VR headset other than myself in Queensland. So it was crazy. So got to know people through that meetup. But anyway, fast forward to now, when I look back, one of the biggest regrets I have about all of the work that I've done is I didn't document it and I didn't record it. I didn't put it out there and build an online audience. So my audience, I know a lot of people in Brisbane, in Queensland, and that has led me to have the opportunities that I have. And you probably have the same experience.
Right.
Through River City Labs. Labs, you mentioned you had these opportunities to work at Maxwell, and then Max Kelson, and then you've had university opportunities as well. So, but for me, running those meetups and looking back, I thought, why did I just not record those? All I had to do was turn on the recorder, record each of the meetups and the presentations, and then put them up online, and I could have an online audience, and I'd be able to network virtually, not just physically. So that's what I've decided I need to do moving forward. All right. Well, I'll let you go. Thank you so much for your time. And
Thank you,
I'm
sir.
really looking forward to catching up on Monday.
Excellent. Bring David.
Yes, please bring David.
And you let me know when this is online yet.
Yeah, I will. I'll send you a link to the other. I've got two up already. I'll send you a link to those so you can have a quick squeeze of those.
That's all right. Okay. Thank you.
All right. See ya.
See you Monday.